speak about your ministry, but my strength is in your presence. That's why I need you to reside in me. I'm not perfect. Nobody on this earth is. I cried and you heard it. You hear my cry. Distracted and diverted. Inside I'm feeling worthless. You steer me back into my purpose. Disciples in disguise, through the fire and the rain, the heartache and pain. When I used to call your name, it was only in vain. So I remain stuck in the same day-to-day routine. It was so insane. I got slain, dropped to my knees, begging please, God, could you rescue me? Devil had my body, but God, you use the rest of me. And through my testimony, ministry is contained in me. I aim to be better than the man I used to be, cause God is using me for the purposes that only He can see. And I trust His decision making, cause He has never forsaken me. He's taking me up out of foul living, in front of a crowd, spitting verses with no curses and messages hidden in them, sprinkled with His divine wisdom. In the streets or in prison, God's disciples living, I gotta get them. Lord, just you. Anytime, anywhere, use me, Lord. You can use me, Lord. You never lose me, Lord. I am true. Purpose in store, and even when I fall short, use me, Lord. You can use me, Lord. You never lose me, Lord. I am truly yours, Lord, my Lord. Anytime, anywhere, use me, anywhere, use me.
I believe we're live. I believe we're live. I believe we are live on Purge of the BS today. This is a special edition. We're going to get really too real today. A little too real. Maybe you can handle it, maybe you can't. But if you're in the chat, make sure you give me a thumbs up in the chat. Let me know that you can hear me. Let me know that you're in the spot and you are ready to purge the BS. Before I get started, just do not forget this and every edition of Purge of the BS is designed to assist our show sponsor, Freeman Services, who provides the right connections right now to those with what we call employment disabilities, okay? Make sure that you check that out, freemanservices.org. Anyway, today we're going to get into it, guys. We are getting into it today. I'm going to take you back to a time in my life where things were a little bit different. I'm going to take you back to Baltimore City circa late 90s. Okay? Circa late 90s into early 2000s. There was a movement going on at that time. Let me make sure I'm good here, because y'all got to hear everything I got to say here. Now, if you don't know who this guy is over here, this is, hold on, let me make sure my camera thing is, because they're not seeing my hand. There you go. This guy over here, right? This is Mr. Pastor Jamal Bryant. Now, some of you may know that recently our esteemed Vice President, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, was at his church for, she delivered what I would consider a sermon. It wasn't bad, honestly. If you listen to it, it was well written, and I'll leave it at that. But a question came to me about why did she choose that location specifically? Who chose that location? Like, sorry, I got my little music here. Let me run that in the back. That's a song called Use Me by me. Anyway. And I'm going to take you back into a time, right, where holy hip hop was like really hitting the scene. There was a lot of artists like Canton Jones. I know Kirk Franklin was one of the majors. There was a lot going on late 90s, early 2000s, right? And among that, right? Sorry, let me turn this back down a little bit because y'all got to hear this. Y'all got to hear this, okay? So around that time emerged a large number of like mega church situations, mega church preachers, especially in the Baltimore area. A lot of people may not know that. You know, if you're not local to Baltimore, not all stories get out, not all information gets out. But for the music scene, folks, I want to give some shouts real quick. Special shout to my man Russ Shanks in Baltimore. That's my guy. Shouts to Rock the Truth Records and everybody that's been doing that for years. Shouts to 3HP, Troy Edwards, all those folks over there. You know, anybody who I've come across that was good along the way, right? But in that coming across the good, right, I've also come across some bad. And I got to tell you a story in order to really set this up so that you truly understand what was going on. Because it's about to get interesting. Bricks, thanks for stopping in too, man. Because I'm getting in trouble today, but I'm speaking from a personal experience, so I'm not really sure how much trouble I'm going to get into. But at this point, I really don't care. And I'm going to start this by saying something I said 2 or 3 episodes ago, is that I don't personally have any issue with the vice president. I don't. I had an issue with how they presented what they were trying to do as a plan. And in that presentation, they have made stops along the way that I have not liked. And that I wish they would have done some other things, right? Baltimore in the building, man. Y'all know where I'm about to go. Anybody who's been in the Baltimore area for more than a decade or so, y'all know where I'm about to go. Now, I'm going to take you to a place. Back in the day, I used to be part of a ministry of music. I know it's hard to believe, right? Oh, how could he? Yeah. And I'm still a minister of music in my own regard, right? And during that time, I was with a particular group in that area, and we were just, I'm not going to say we were just killing the game, but we were pretty much everywhere. All the mega churches in the area, Bethel AME, all that kind of stuff, right? And I feel you, Bricks, on there. There's definitely the pandemonium. We already knew about that. We talked about it 2 or 3 months ago. So Trump is pandering. Everybody's trying to pander for votes. And that's why I didn't want to really talk about Kamala Harris, and I want to give her props on the actual sermon, speech, or whatever you want to call it. It was pretty good. I mean, like, if you listen to it, it delivered well. For those who were just listening to that part, I'm not taking anything away from that. What my issue is why did they choose this place? And this is where I'm going to get into it, okay? This is where I'm going to get in trouble, Bricks. Some years ago, when I was performing on the scene in Baltimore there, in Holy Hip Hop and Music Ministry, and there's other artists who can pretty much attest to this because we all went through it. The mega churches were making a lot of money. Had a lot of really great preachers. These guys were moving crowds. Jamal Bryant was one of them. He was definitely one of them. I went to a number of his services, performed at the church in different youth ministries and all types of stuff. This is, like I said, it's about 20 years ago. God, it's been that long. Anyway, we went to a lot of the mega churches. And what the mega churches would do is they would book you for, especially if you were local talent, they would book you for a gig. And they would, allow you to sell your merchandise, your CDs or whatever, at like a, little table or whatever out front. And they would also take an offering from the church, like to, as a blessing for you. So you really don't know how much you're going to get paid, right? So you're going into it with faith. You're going into it with faith. And when you go into it with faith, you're hoping for the best, right? Well, let me tell you what was happening up there, okay? And I'm going to paint the scenario for you without saying too much, okay? This is how they used to do it. They would take that offering. This is after the tithes. This is after the church offering. This is, you have performed, and a pastor like Jamal Bryant jumps up there and says, for these young brothers, let's get everything that you got. Let's tell the Lord you're forgiven. You know, that whole thing. And he would move the crowd, and these people would drop hundreds and 20s, and I mean, like I said, and he was one of a number of them that I encountered during this time. And this is what they would do. And so you're on stage, like, you know, you're still up there, you finished your performance or whatever, and, you know, you're waving at the crowd or, you know, whatever at the end, you know, as he's doing it. Normally it's like a prayer or something. But the point I'm trying to make is we're talking, 5 to 10,000 parishioners or, you know, members, churches here, running up because they are super enthused by not only the performance they just saw, but by the pastor who would hype them up and said, you know, you give and you receive. If you let these young brothers. Now, let me tell you, we got there with nothing at a lot of these gigs. We were riding around in a cab. It was rough. You know how it is, starving artists, that kind of thing, right? So whatever we could get, we were definitely happy about. But in a number of occasions, at these mega churches, Empowerment Temple included, when they would do this process, there would be these guys, these guys that would come with the baskets and gather up everything right in front of you. Now, if you've never seen one of these church baskets, we're not just talking about the plate. We're talking about the basket that they dump the plate in repeatedly, right? In that basket, imagine you see that basket filled up with, hundreds and you can look at it and say, yo, there's thousands of dollars in each one of these baskets. There's thousands of people here. The energy is good. This pastor delivered an awesome little message, got everybody pumped up. And you watch these people take this whole stage. If you've ever been to Empowerment Temple or a mega church, the stages are really big. So imagine a stage littered like a freaking strip club with money. You understand what I'm saying? But for your performance. And so when they gather up this stuff, they take it off into they take the money off into the back room. Now, the normal agreement, like when we went to the smaller places, right? They would give us, whatever that offering was, and then we would bless the church with an amount out of it, right? That was the normal thing with the smaller churches, right? The larger churches would take that money in the back room and they would give you what you want. So let me give you an example, one quick one. Imagine 4 baskets full of cash and checks and all types of stuff, because he'll tell you, make out the check to the Lord. You know what I'm saying? He'll give it, and these guys were good. I'm trying to tell you, these guys were good at getting that energy going. Oh, it's just awesome. Jamal Bryant was one of them, right? And they took this money in the back, and they came out with $100. $100. Now you just performed for, let's say, 45 minutes or 30 minutes or so, right? You struggled to get there on gas because you wanted to perform as an artist in front of this large crowd, because that was the crowd that was at these mega churches. And then the church, utilizing your talent, and that pastor, utilizing your talent, decides to impart upon the congregation to give based on blessing you. And then instead of you really being blessed, you get gas money. And let me tell you what would happen when you question this. You would be met with the resistance of a phrase along the lines of, I thought you were doing it for God. And I heard that phrase a number of times, and people have asked me why I stopped doing certain circles and certain music. Is because, I'm going to be real, I saw more dirt on that side. I saw more conniving, dirty stuff on that side. And that's why I had to bring you to this Jamal Bryant situation. I don't like talking about people, but this gentleman has done some things that, in my opinion, you can't really just shake that off. And he was in Baltimore. Some of y'all know the story. I'm going to run it in 1 second, just give you a taste of it. But this gentleman, he started messing around with the ladies in the church. Now, this is a common story, right? The pastor's messing with the people in the church. He's messing with Miss Shirley. He's doing this. He's doing that. I get it. But this guy was married to like I don't want to say a supermodel, but, you know. And then after that, he conceives at least one child, at least one, outside of his marriage. There were multiple, Baltimore knows, and Baltimore ain't forget, there were multiple scandals around this dude. Multiple. And then he stepped down from his position, and then he went and he popped up in Atlanta. I don't really know how he popped up in Atlanta, but let me tell you how I feel. When I tell you that story about the money and the situation, when I saw him come across my screen, it was like seeing a person that stole money from you that you haven't seen in a while. And you like, oh my goodness. And you see them doing stuff and you're like, and but you still owe me. And you get to, and you're out there. No, you don't get to just drop that, bro. You don't get to just drop that. You know why? You know why? Because we hold ourselves to a higher standard. And this is the problem I'm having with today's black church is we haven't instilled enough spiritual connection with the people. And we follow these pastors like they're superstars and they start being narcissistic, and then their mistakes run people away from the church. It's like you can't trust the church. And that's rough, because that's not how the church used to be. But when you get into these mega churches, I got plenty of stories. And I'm going to get into some more of that later. But if you are not subscribed to this channel, make sure you do subscribe to this channel. I'm going to run this story real quick for you guys regarding his messy life. If for those that don't know, because it seems like she should have chose somewhere else to go. But I'm gonna let you see.
Else could help lead a church through scars and pain if you've never done so yourself. There's a complete distinction between apathy and empathy.
That was controversial preacher Jamal Bryant. And when he says scars and pain, here's what he's referring to as what makes him the most qualified person to lead the church.
Walk us through. What happened?
I stepped rolling outside of my marriage and had a extramarital affair that ultimately ended in a divorce to an incredibly wonderful woman.
He calls her incredibly wonderful
now. He didn't mention
but
that there's children involved. But
this man admitted that he thought he'd never get caught.
I was quickly becoming a household name, so nothing in my mind ever said, one, I would ever get caught. Number two, that my wife would ever leave. Number three, that my church would tank out.
It's generally not uncommon to see entertainers of any kind caught up in controversy. In fact, some may even say many of the people in that line of work thrive on getting caught up in the messiest situations. This is unlike religious leaders, because not only do these people teach a message that is opposed to most of these controversies, but they also stand as an example of how people in their congregation should live their lives.
Shouts to Jay
members of
Giddens
the
in
New
the
Birth
chat too.
Missionary
Thank y'all for
Baptist
stopping
Church
in.
don't seem to be heeding the second part of that statement, because many people seem to consider their pastor to not be the best role model. These people have a point, because Pastor Jamal Bryant has literally spent most of his time in the limelight, transitioning from one messy situation to the next.
Transitioning,
so
notice the wording.
This man has dragged both his nuclear and extended family through the mud of it all. Granted, no one is perfect, not even the people who preach the gospel, but several people seem to agree that a line always has to be drawn when dealing with pastors. That line is something Pastor Bryant seems to have long crossed with the allegations he's faced in the media over the years. If tabloids weren't reporting that he had cheated on his then wife, it was some other random woman coming out to announce she was having a baby with him.
Exactly.
Things like these are believed to do more harm than good to the...
I'm going to pause it real quick because that is a long video. But here's the thing. The lady in the video is already touching on something very interesting. Even in the clips, he says, I thought I wasn't going to get caught. So you just going to play in the face of God and think you're not going to get caught. You're going to do that. Baltimore ain't forget yet, yo. Yeah, and she was a baddie too. Like I said, his wife was like a model. I went to the church. I physically met the man. And I want my money. Anyway, we're not going to, don't get me riled up. He owe me some money. Ask my peoples that used to be doing them shows with me. They used to get over on us constantly. And they would always hit us with, you was doing it for God. Well, what are you doing it for? Since you calling me out, what are you doing it for? Since you stealing from me, what are you doing it for? Since you messing with the ladies in the what are you doing it for? Don't ask me about me. Give me my money. You understand what I'm saying? Anyway, it's been tough. And this is the thing that I need people to understand. We're all human. We're all human. And if there's somebody that I know has like done me wrong, or I've seen them do like wrong stuff over and over and over again, and then other people in a different area didn't see that, so they accept this person like they're brand new. Remember in Django, when they came out and it was like the Speck brothers, but you might know them as this or whatever because they moved into a new space to start some new goofiness. And that's how I feel about what happened with Jamal Bryant moving over to New Birth Church, which is where Kamala Harris went. And that's why I feel very confused as to why they selected a place where people like myself and anybody that was in Baltimore can easily do the research or remember this guy's kind of a sleazeball. Why would you pick the sleazeball black preacher? What are you trying to show me? You're trying to say there was nowhere else you could go, maybe even a smaller venue, maybe even a little bit smaller. Let me tell you what, okay? The story that this lady is talking about only has so much to do with the situation that initially prevailed, but I was around. This cat had like 4 women at one time that were talking about they had a child by him. I know at least 1 or 2 had to get a DNA test or something like that. But here's my thing. In each situation, and I don't care how nobody feel right now. I'm just talking about how I feel. I'm not telling anybody how to think. I'm just telling y'all how I think. So we're just having a conversation, okay? But in each situation, when these children were on the way, his initial knee-jerk reaction was to go murder it. Now, granted, you don't want your reputation tainted, but who are we standing behind here? Like, who are we really? Is this what they wanted? Is this what they wanted as a reaction? They wanted somebody who may have been personally wrong to now come on the internet and start speaking out and saying, stop putting people up that you know are sleazeballs. He should have never been let back on the pulpit, in my opinion. Especially not at another mega church in a whole nother city. Somebody should have done their research. But speaking of research, you know whose church he took over? If you don't know who Eddie Long is, that's whose church he took over. Eddie Long was known for messing with little boys and doing inappropriate stuff. And he ended up, I think he passed away afterwards. And some people actually rejoiced in his passing because of how sleazy he was. Now, it's one part these guys, right? It's one part these guys. But I'm going to run a little bit more of this thing for you while he explains his divorce situation, okay? Give me 1 second here. Hold on. All right, here we go. I got it.
Going through a divorce with Giselle due to infidelity from me.
Before her debut as a Real Housewife, Giselle Bryant had some drama of her own right at her doorstep. When she tied the knot to Jamal Bryant in 2002, the former NAACP event planner soared into a life of luxury. Life seemed to be pretty good for Giselle, as Jamal had become a high-profile pastor at the Empowerment AME Church in Baltimore,
Bricks, that's
Maryland.
Awesome.
Giselle helped build
have
the
blindest
megachurch as
followers.
First Lady,
That is awesome.
also assisting Jamal in his international missionary efforts. She later gave birth to their 3 daughters, Grace, Angel, and
Beautiful
Adori.
family.
The
You see what I'm
couple
saying?
divorced in 2009 after Giselle discovered Jamal's infidelity, as per Bravo. The rumors of Jamal's adultery first swirled throughout his large congregation before Giselle found out, per the Daily Mail. In 2017, Giselle opened up about her divorce on The Breakfast Club. At the time, I had 2 one-year-olds and a 2-year-old, 3 girls. They're beautiful. And I said, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to be disrespected, she said. So yes, I packed up and left. Seriously, who could blame her? Jamal had spoken out about the affair in a conversation with Roland S. Martin in 2000.
All right, hold on. I'm pausing it because I'm gonna let this be known too. I'm not a big fan of Roland. I think Roland's soft, and I don't know what it is with him. I think he likes to play with them folks too. I'm just saying. Something about him just. So now you got this guy and Roland, and you got all of this dirtiness, which a lot of people don't like Roland Martin. A lot of people don't like Jamal Bryant. And that's my whole point is for folks that are trying to, make objective decisions about their next vote, what you don't do is put the woman alongside someone that they know is a sleazeball. The enemy of my enemy is not necessarily my friend, but damn. What you thought nobody would care? Who's in her campaign? I call her campaign people right now. I want them on. I'm just playing. I ain't got that kind of reach. Not yet. Nobody thought that some people might have an issue with this man asking to kill his own children when he's the one that stepped out, when he's the one that's raw digging in his congregation, and then he pops up in a new congregation following up a guy who was known for being a pedo. And you think that's where we want to see her? That's going to draw us in? Are you serious? Yo, get her camp on the line. It's preposterous. It disgusts me. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm like, okay, somebody, because I can't say that nobody did their research. It's easy. There's Google. It's Google, man. And you don't understand. That story I told you was just my group that happened to. But that was a common thing that these mega church preachers were doing. They was getting over on people. And then the second somebody would ask why they got a Bentley and why they got this, they would normally turn it into some, something godly, and it would sound good, whatever it was. And people kept throwing, look, I'm broke, but I'm giving you $1,000 every 2 weeks when I get paid. But I can't even really make it. And because I'm worried that if I don't give you this $1,000, you can't say it wasn't him. He was wearing parasucos and all types of stuff. Them suits ain't cheap. Meanwhile, I'm broke. I'll tell you another situation with a mega church. And I'm going to get back to Jamal Bryant in 1 second because I'm venting right now. I got to get this up out because I've lived my life for the last number of years just knowing this information. And it's the reason why I don't like churches. Love me some God, though. You understand what I'm saying? And I guarantee there's millions of people who feel the same way I do. Love God, don't like churches, especially not mega churches. Because once you turn church into a business has to utilize marketing strategies to continue to grow. And some of those strategies will be social engineering and mind twisting. And we sit there and just take it all in. You go read the Bible for yourself. It's in every hotel room. If you really want to just look at it, you don't have to give this man no $1,000. You don't have to give, not if you're struggling. Now, if you're a millionaire or whatever, then whatever, do your thing. But you don't have to do that to prove to God that you're worth his grace. You don't. Now, if you're not a spiritual person or whatever, then this is not the episode of my podcast that you would want to see. Most times I'm goofing off and just kind of doing my weird thing, right? My issue is I want to understand why they don't do the research. And if they are doing the research, are they trying to just make us accept a bunch of moral principles that totally go against the norm of what I think? I think if you digging up in your congregation and somebody becomes pregnant and you're a mega pastor, like you're not even no lowly pastor. So at the end of the day, you got money. So it's not that you can't take care of this child financially. You just don't want the inconvenience. And that's not what, I don't believe that should be what abortion is for. Because people don't want to be inconvenienced like that. They're rich people, man. And so that's why I guess they took her there because they know he's pro-abortion. But still, I'm sure they could have found somebody else with maybe a few less skeletons and a few less spots in their background. And that's why it's making me think, what are they trying to make me accept? Because I don't accept this guy. I don't like this guy. Because he owes me money. Do you understand? And he owes a lot of people money. And I don't know if he's taking care of the children that he had in Baltimore, but he don't live in Baltimore no more. Who knows what's going on with them kids? Is he even taking care of them? He still don't have a ring on his finger, so he's probably still smashing somebody down because a lot of the pastors view the marriage covenant as so they should view a marriage covenant as like a godly covenant versus the fornication covenant or fornication act, which is a moral covenant, right? Now, I hear what you're saying, Bricks. But I don't feel like that. I don't feel like that for this situation. Nah, this dude knew what he was doing. And if you look at the current story of at least the one child that I saw, that child has grown up to be an amazing child. And he could have stopped that for inconvenience. So I understand what you're saying, Bricks, but you saying imagine that child's life. Well, the child that he does have is living a pretty good life, but he didn't want that child to be here. So I don't roll with that. All right. So no disrespect between you and me. You know, we always going to be love, but this one, nah, he gets no passes from me. And there's a lot of them. I could go down some lists and some names, but I'm only doing this because he's got a new mega church and they keep, it's like every one of the large black preacher churches start getting into some dirty stuff. It's little boys and illegitimate children. And I mean, how much more are we going to do? Like, how much more are we really going to allow before somebody says, because apparently some people did come up against it at the church. Like they felt a certain way about the abortion rights or whatever, and they got kicked out. And a lot of people are upset about that because they're like, okay, well, you might want this freedom, but does that mean that you have to like denounce that some people believe that, God has something to do with that? Like that's a person's religious belief. There's a freedom to that. And unless they're really heckling or pestering somebody, they don't need to be kicked out of the church. It's the church. They're members. You're kicking out your own members because I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell the world right now, not all Christians support abortion. I know it's tough for you to understand or hear, but not all of them do. Some of them do. Some of them don't. But not all of them do, I'm telling you. So if you put 10,000 of them together, the chances of somebody not seeing that way are pretty daggone high. And they just thought that he had softened up his parishioners enough that nobody would have issue with it. That's wild. That's wild, man. Let me let them finish this out.
2013. I stepped outside of my marriage and had an extramarital affair that ultimately ended in a divorce to a wonderful woman, not because anything was flawed in the marriage or in her, but in my own maturity, he said. One of the critical things my ex-wife said to me was, I didn't divorce you because of the infidelity. I divorced you because I no longer recognized you. You went into a dark place.
He went into a dark place, all right.
And you were just worried about saving your career, not saving the marriage, he recalled.
So when I went through a divorce, Roland, it wasn't between just me and my ex-wife. It was 12,000 people who were members of my church.
Yeah, 12,000 people watching you dig out the congregation.
The pastor then went on to explain that he and Giselle were in a better place. I think I became a better person post the divorce than I was in the marriage, he said. She and I are still great friends and are still able to operate in a meaningful way. By becoming a better person, the pastor seems to have meant he was free to continue doing what ruined his
exactly
marriage
what he
in
kept
the first
doing.
place. To prove that, just shortly after the finalization of his divorce, another scandal came out about him. Per the reports, a woman who alleged she had a years-long intermittent explicit relationship with the pastor suggested that he be removed from the pulpit because he's not fit to be a spiritual
Y'all see
leader.
this, right?
We all have sinned and we've all fallen short, but we can't keep thinking that it's okay to get your get-out-of-jail-free card every time you do this, said the woman, Tunya Griffin, who served as Associate Director of University Community Partnerships at the Rochester Institute of Technology.
Don't believe
That's
me?
not
Look it
grace
up.
at all. And so the response of the church is around this ideal. If somebody falls, we help them get up. We clean them up and we bring them back into the fold. Okay, yes, we do. They fall. We clean them up. We bring them back in. But that does not mean that you bring them back in to occupy the same space, she said.
That's the
Griffin
hit right
spoke
there.
out about her
let me bring that back. It wasn't. It was more like what that lady said. She said, as Christians, we are obligated to allow people to fall and get back up. But we are not obligated to put them back into the same space that they occupied before the fall. He's in the same space. He's doing the same things. I don't know if he's fathering more children, but there's already allegations, like currently. So why would you put the vice president there unless you want her to be aligned with scandals or something? Like it just seemed this, I don't know. Like I said, maybe it's just me because I have my own personal connection to the area and the time and all of that. But I wasn't the only person, man. Baltimore didn't forget. They're all over the internet. And a bunch of people, she lost a bunch of people, not because of what she said, but because who she aligned herself with, because that dude was sleazy. That was just, I don't know, man. I'm trying to keep it together, but it's like they knew that he was that dude. So what did they think was going to be the result of that? Were they trying to desensitize us to something that might be coming? I don't know. I don't know, man. And that's what I'm saying, Bricks. Her camp is who I'm upset with. Because the same way that I can Google search 1,000 things about this guy, I can Google search the fact that the AME church didn't even know he was going to New Birth. And I think it's interesting and ironic that the church is called New Birth when he was asking everybody to have abortions. I said it. and you followed up somebody who was a known additional sleazeball. So now all I can think of is if you go to New Birth, then you must like sleazeball stuff. And that doesn't matter if you're the vice president or the president or Trump or any of these people. If you go in a place with the sleazeballs that I actually know, like some of these folks, I don't know the actors and actresses and all, I don't know them folks. But that one, and he ain't the only one. That's all I'm going to say. He's just one that we know of, that I personally know of. And the media seem to just not think that that would be an issue for voters. There's people voting. Who you align yourself with. That's why Trump went pandering at McDonald's. Because he's trying to get McDonald's, employees to feel like he's a man of the people. That was why he was there. To connect with that which was represented by McDonald's. So if the same is to be said for the campaign on the other side, then they put her there to align her with the craziness that this guy is known for. And that's like sabotage. They sabotaged it, man. They sabotaged it. They literally sabotaged it. And now that I'm looking back, I don't understand why. Why go through all of that to just right at the end, just start doing, I don't know. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Because I know of particular pastors being dirty dudes, and if I see people that align themselves with them, I don't really like them. I don't trust those people either. If you roll with thieves, you probably stealing. What's the phrase? If you're in the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. There's a million phrases that say who you hang around with, you will liken yourself to in some way, shape, or form. And the question is, what shape or form is that? My other question, where was her husband at? Why they ain't bring him out there? What, they thought he was going to detract the black people in the congregation because he's white? Because everybody threw these stupid identity politics out there to start this thing? It was goofy. They should have never done any of that. And yes, I do get that there's money involved. But the goal is to get to the presidential seat. So every step that you make along the way is supposed to be strategic, right? Now, see, we talking about, Bricks. He said, Jesus rode with thieves and murderers. Yeah, but he was there to convert those people. I don't think that's what anybody else was. I don't think that's what she was there to do, was to like convert them to something else. I don't think so. I don't know. But that's a good one. Yes, but that was Jesus. And you see how I can say that? Jesus, like it's a name. No shame here. Can't tell me he wasn't here. He was definitely here. They built a whole timeline off of him. He definitely was here. I don't know about everything else, but that I know. And then it was really supposed to be damage control because of something that was kind of misunderstood with the rally the day before. That's why they sent her there, was because somebody yelled out Jesus is Lord, and she told them they were in the wrong place. Now, I don't know for a fact that she heard every word that they said, and maybe she just thought they were saying something else and she was saying that in response to that. But because the internet responded in the way that they did, the next day they sent her over to this guy's church, inciting a whole nother group of people who were glad that he left Baltimore. They were glad he left. And then he went somewhere else. Man, when that whole scandal came out, his church would have, we're talking thousands of people were there at first. Right before he left, man, Baltimore wasn't playing that, man. We got enough ratchetness in that city. That's crazy. And so they bring her to him and then say, all right, go preach to the people. And then she never said nothing about Jesus. So that might be one of those churches where they're like non-denominationally, one of them churches where they don't say nothing about Jesus specifically. But I don't know, man. I'm trying not to get myself in too much trouble. I was going to put this other video up of this other pastor that was preaching. But I do have, let me give this one more minute to finish this segment over here.
Relationship with Bryant in an interview in which she claimed the unmarried pastor pursued other relationships and fathered at least 2 children over the period they were intimate. You'd think she was lying until you hear that the mother of one of those 2 children also spoke out about the pastor spreading a lot more than just the gospel. LaToya Shanti Odom, an at the time 34-year-old Los Angeles-based masseuse, accused the then infamous minister of fathering her 10-month-old son, according to the Baltimore Sun. Odom also claimed Bryant has failed to financially support the child.
See?
Bryant later responded to the claims in a broadcast from his Periscope account. "Keep praying for me because, unlike others, I actually need it," Bryant said to a social audience who really just wanted a yes or no answer to the question, "Are you the daddy?" He also added, "God ain't finished with me." Bryant said his lawyers advised him not to comment in depth.
He the daddy.
But said that he would address the issue head on at a later time. Bryant also said, "When there is something to be said, you will hear it directly from me. You will not have to look for a secondary source." Well, it would later be confirmed that he was indeed the father after a paternity test was taken, and once again, this changed man was exposed for the liar that he is. But even with all these things that came up, he and his ex still found their way back into each other's
they ended up
arms.
getting back together.
What's been the biggest way he's changed for the better? Like, how is the relationship different this time around?
I think he.
This
I
is
think
just
so much maturity
messy.
in him. He has
And then she was on
overwhelming
The Real
sense of
Housewives.
humility.
Though the couple divorced after 12 years of marriage, they decided to give their relationship another go. Bryant revealed on The Real Housewives of Potomac Season 4 reunion special that the two have since rekindled their romance. "You know, I look back and I just feel like nobody is what their mistakes are," Bryant shared during the Season 4 reunion.
She was being nice.
And I
she
feel
tried.
like he's a different person, I'm a different person. So we are baby stepping, but we are moving into the direction that we want to move into. When they reconciled after over a decade of being divorced, their daughters were not happy about it.
See? The
During
kids wasn't
season
even
5
happy.
of the show, Giselle struggled to get her teenage daughters to accept their relationship. You know what? They're a little confused, to be honest with you, because they've never seen us together in that way.
All right, I'm just, because you already see where it's going to go. You already see it. So she ends up. I'll finish the story for you. It's no big deal. She gets back with him, and then they end up breaking up again because of, I think it was the. They said it was COVID or something that was going on. That's what she said on the Breakfast Club. But at the end of the day, this dude's a sleazeball, man. Like a sleazeball. And when I saw him come across there, it reminded me of why a lot of people stopped really messing with the church. It was because of guys like him. It was because these people would come in, you know, whether it be off the street or whatever, they're going through a situation in their life, and they get slain in the Holy Ghost from this dude talking and preaching, and you know what I'm saying? Wow. And then they find out he the dirtiest one. He the dirtiest one. They be the dirtiest ones. I'm going to tell you a quick story, and then I'm going to get ready to get up out of here because my time's almost up. And I will not get fined. I'm just here so I don't get fined. The algorithm likes it. We're getting plenty of watch time, Brick, so we're doing a lot better in this weird way. It's kind of crazy. But nonetheless, this one particular time when I was a lot younger, I was a go hard member of a mega church. And when I say go hard, I'm talking about every 2 weeks when I got paid, my little paycheck from Rent-A-Center or wherever I was working at the time, I would give them upwards of $600-$700 every week. And I was a member there for years. And this one particular time, I ran into a financial issue. I cannot remember what the specific details were, but I needed some money to pay rent or something along those lines, right? And the church had always said that they offered rental assistance and all these kind of things. And so I went and asked them, you know, now let's start with the fact that it took them a while to even get back in the first place. I had to go up there, like I sent an email, you know, and stuff like that. I literally had to corner these people to get a decision and get actual, an actual response to my request. And do you know what they told me? They told me that they told me no. Let's start with that they wouldn't help me and my family and then small children. My kids are grown now, but, well, most of them. But the kids that were small then are grown now is what I'm saying. But they were babies then. And they literally told us that we hadn't given enough to the church for the church to want to help us out. And when I say we was go hard, I think that was why I stopped going to that church, or at least that's where I started. I think I can't remember. It was part of the fallout, though. Because I was struggling to pay these tithes and offerings and all this kind of stuff, hoping that God was going to just bless me for doing that. And God's always blessing me. So sometimes it's not your season and you just throwing your money away. I'm just being real. Sometimes he don't want you to do all that. You showing off for the people in the congregation because you can give everybody put a $50 bill in the air. All that kind of shit with the breathing. Sorry, I just cussed. I was trying to make this as a profanity-free episode since I was talking about the church. But we're talking about people in the church that are immoral anyway. And if you want to be manipulative, you position yourself in a place to be a manipulator. Just like a lot of pedos go be the janitor at a school or a coach of a youth sports team. A lot of those guys do that. If you are willing to prey on I don't want to say prey on the weak, but that's what you're doing. When you get people in church, they're emotional, they're influenceable. You know, you can get them to pretty much do and say a lot of things and then put it on God. Just like when they didn't give us that money. Because the dudes I was rolling with at the time were not choir boys. These are ex-felons. You understand what I'm saying? So we talk about people who did time, and I'm standing there with these guys trying to make sure they don't try to hurt nobody. And with all due respect, we were very composed in those situations. But when we got to the car, it'd be different. But the point I'm trying to make is when you try to use God as the shield, God is he's his own entity. You don't get to just come and go as you please, Mr. Jamal Bryant. And this is what I'm hoping for. He's made his money. I would like him to not be in front of anybody teaching anything. There are too many pastors out there that we know of, people know of, is dirty, and we're allowing them to still be in front of folks talking. I don't want people to follow what you think. You think dirty. And if people follow you, they gonna be dirty. If people follow how you act, they not gonna be right. And then when you fall, they're gonna fall because they're not even connected to the right thing. They're connected to you as a person, as a flawed individual. Now, if you can't hold yourself to a higher standard, that's on you. But I am. Because I'm expected to be at a standard. I've made my mistakes in life. There's no denying that. But what I'm not going to do is go jumping up in front of people trying to condemn them. And that's what Jamal Bryant did. He jumped up there and went on that whole, I'm not afraid to let a woman lead. If you are afraid to let a woman lead. He did that whole thing. And I'll put a link in the description. It's just I don't want to poison my ears with that anymore. He went at the black guys. And us black guys who know you, bro, we don't want to hear nothing you got to say. Nothing. You can go sit down somewhere and have a freaking communion cracker and a glass of wine and go sit down. Stay out of the campaign politics, because you just made this woman lose a large portion of people, at least in the upper northern area. You got to think about how many people are connected to a church that has 10,000 members, and none of them forgot. What are you throwing in the towel? Is that what we're doing? They just throwing in the towel. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. Either that or they think black people are just stupid in a general sense. And I refuse to think that people think we that dumb. I refuse. I'm not going that route. I'm just going to chalk it up to a misconception or a missed idea for right now, because I haven't talked to anybody in the camp to really find out why they did the dumbest thing they could have done the day after something happened in regards to Christianity. Sorry, but if you didn't notice, like 70% of the country is Christian. So if you start denouncing Jesus and that's the narrative, people are going to have an issue with that. It's not hard to shake that. And then even if they're misunderstood, you show up the next day as Sleazeball Central, and Pastor Sleaze is over there trying to get on people, just forcing them to follow what he says. I'm not following what you said, bro. You lucky you got where you are and you're doing what you are over in Atlanta. Baltimore will not have you. That's why you're there. You ain't allowed back in that city. You tainted an area, a name, and now you're down in Atlanta talking about you want to start growing weed at the church to bring in young people. First of all, cannabis is a business, sir. How does that bring in young people? Are you going to have them smoking in the congregation? Is that what you're supposed to do? Is that what you're trying to do? We bring weed to the church as a business. What does that have to do with the youth ministry? What, are they going to be cultivating it? There's 1,000 other things you can do with that. You could just invest in another business. Why is that? That's who he is. And just like Zora said, narcissistic people wear a bunch of masks. And every once in a while, if you pay close attention, that mask will slip. And when the mask slips, that's when you see them for who they really are. And once that happens, you can never forget what you've seen. I can never forget what I've seen. Sorry. I can never forget what the person did, what he did. I didn't say I couldn't forgive, but I'm not going to forget that. You shat upon thousands of people, made a grip and dipped out, didn't even tell the AME church what was going on. That's dirty. And then went to Atlanta, that's known as a city that's a little more liberal when it comes to alphabeticals. And followed up one of the worst stories in Eddie Long. I wouldn't have wanted to go near no pulpit he was on. I would be afraid that it would get struck. And for some reason, he wasn't scared of that. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. Give me a second here. Let me pull my last little piece. My last little piece here. You know what? I can't even with him right now. You don't, Bricks, it's like if somebody really did you dirty and did many people that you knew dirty. We were out there doing it for God. We were. We were trying to do a good thing. We were bringing in the youth. We were doing that. And they got over on us. And he was one of the major ones. He was one of the major ones. And don't get it twisted. I know the other ones too. I'll talk about y'all on another episode. I'm only saying this because they put Kamala Harris in his area and it immediately made me feel a certain type of way. And I said, I represent a piece of the population. So somebody else who might have been a singer or a liturgical dancer or whatever, they was doing this to a lot of folks. But then on top of it, there was kids popping up. the congregation was saying stuff, and the AME church would not fire him. They said it was up to the church, and the church people were so forgiving that they didn't fire him either. They asked him to step down. He never actually said he would, but then he did. Those people, that was the forgiveness of Baltimore. They gave you a pass on that, bro. So you should have took that pass. It's like when you tell a person, like they did in the Fast and the Furious, when you leave, you keep going and don't come back. That's how he was supposed to do. We weren't supposed to see you again. I wasn't. The second I saw that, I said, who the hell let him in front of their parish like that? But then I found out who their leader was before, and I said, okay, I see what they're doing over there. I see how they recruit. I see what team they recruiting. That doesn't necessarily mean that the vice president is that team, but I see what team they recruiting over there. There was 1,000 other places. A 1,000 other places, man, that they could have sent the vice president. Forget that she's running. This is representing the black church to the rest of the world during an election season. And you not only send her to the place that's currently got somebody dirty, but just had somebody dirty before him. Just known for being dirty. And got the nerve to be called New Birth. Guys, this is how I get myself in trouble every time. Because I can't be anything but honest. What they did was some BS. It was. And it lost a segment of the population that does have particular morals, and we don't forget everything. We don't forget sleazeballs that sleaze entire towns and people out of their moral capacity. People stopped going to church like that. It was fired up back then until them preachers came through and started messing it up. It was a new movement going on. And it wasn't the artists that messed it up. The artists were part of the parish. They just were coming up. And then you start doing them dirty. How are you going to keep them connected if all that you do is dirt? Yeah, you sound good. You got the cadence. You got the tone. But I see through you, devil. You right in front of me. What, you think I'm going to miss you? If you put the devil in front of me and I identify him, I am not going to be at ease. So I'm no longer at ease. I'm worried. I'm worried that the goal is to align us with some goofiness and make everybody align with the goofy. I am not the one. Y'all can keep that goofiness wherever the hell it's at, but don't bring it on the main stage no more. And don't show me people that you know are dirty and try to have them try to come down on me for something stupid. No, get off the stage. You're lucky to have a stage. Maybe them folks in Atlanta don't really know him. Maybe he ain't, but they already got scandals down there. Come on, man. This is what we got. This is what we got. This is what they did. They expected us to just take the okie doke because it was Jamal Bryant. Because somebody said he's still super popular. Nah, bro. Baltimore ain't forget. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but Baltimore ain't forget. Special shouts to all the Baltimore holy hip hop artists that was out there in them streets back then on Pennsylvania Avenue, out there trying to rap to the youth in the middle of Lexington Market. Shouts to y'all, because that wasn't easy. And then these mega preachers would come through with a caravan of people and give you $20, and you hyping the crowd up. You know what that is, guys. You know exactly what that is. That, my friends, is the bullshit.